Hello and welcome to Start the Beat with Sykes. My name is Sykes and this is my podcast. Before we get started, I just wanted to take a quick moment to thank everyone who checked out the last episode. If you're one of those people, I hope you enjoyed the conversation and thanks so much for coming back. But for everyone out there who's new to the show, welcome. Feel free to make yourselves at home. And as always, there's beer, soda, water, coffee in the fridge. Cheers to everyone out there.
Something that I don't think we brought up is kind of like what I consider the elephant in the room of horrorcore, which we brought up them a little bit before, but ICP.
Yeah.
Right? They're kind of like...
They were always considered the top of the food.
They're like the Coca-Cola of horrorcore, right?
They're
like,
the WWE,
sure.
Because they were the ones that out of all the genres really went off and sold millions. You know, they always were the ones that were like the head of the pack. So that's why a lot of people, when they think horrorcore, they think Insane Clown Posse.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely, my introduction to the genre, but that would have been when I was in like 6th or 7th grade and like Riddlebox came out, right?
Yeah.
But like they were still pretty big at that point. But there's no way that, a 10-year-old or 11-year-old kid's going to find out about that stuff unless there's a band that sort of big,
that's
right?
how I was. I mean, I was 11. I discovered Bone Thugs, and they were doing East 99 Eternal, and that was like, that's how I heard about them. And then people were telling me, "Oh, if you like that, you ever heard Gravediggers?" I'm like, "No." And then I heard Gravediggers and Flatliners. Then it wasn't until I really listened to Detroit that I heard about Insane Clown Posse, and stuff. So, but for a lot of people, they were the gateway into the
and there's a lot of people that undeniably throw a ton of shade at ICP for whatever reason they have, whatever prejudice they have against, like, it usually tends to be like people that are like, oh, like juggalos are corny or they're this or that. Like, I've known plenty of juggalos throughout my life. They've never been anything but some of the best people I've ever met.
Yeah.
I wouldn't consider myself a juggalo. I don't really listen to ICP anymore, but I grew up with it, and I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I have a lot of respect for them as entrepreneurs, I suppose.
Yeah.
They definitely found a way to fuck up the system and do things their own way, which is really cool.
Yeah.
But I think that their association with the genre is probably the biggest issue because most of the time, anybody that is familiar with horrorcore from like the outside perspective, like, oh yeah, like ICP and shit. And it's like, that's not really quite, I don't know if like ICP should still be like looked at as like, oh, that is what horrorcore is. Cause I don't even think like ICP has really put out horrorcore-esque music in the past decade or two, have they?
No, they have.
I mean, I don't follow what they're doing.
They still do. Yeah, they still do. But I mean, I think the last couple of years they've actually been getting appreciation from like people like Hot 97 and other respected people where they looked at them like for a long time. I guess they didn't get a lot of credibility for what they were doing because they were always viewed as a novelty act.
Yeah, and I don't
like they were always seen like you're too rap to be rock and you're too rock to be rap.
Yeah. It's like, it's an interesting thing because like I've listened to interviews with them and it's like, they're great storytellers. They have an amazing history. And like I said before, I have nothing but respect for them.
Yeah.
But it's so interesting that like people won't go out of their way to scratch below the surface of their like prejudices and like accept ICP or accept horrorcore as a genre in this time frame when we're supposed to be accepting of other people and other lifestyles and all of these things. It's like we could still like consider juggalos as like nothing but like a bunch of white trash, which is like what I always hear people say, and it's like it's so fucking wrong.
Yeah,
it's like how we're like one moment you're gonna be like, oh, like let's be accepting of all these other people, and then somebody brings up juggalos and the same people are like, fuck that.
I think that people look at it because they're people who feel like they're different or they don't really fit in with a large group of people. And then when they hear this music, when they hear Insane Clown Posse's music, they figure, oh my God, this is so different and it's so out there. And it's got like this fictional mythos that they created around it that everything kind of follows into. And, I think a lot of people really get absorbed by that. And that's how they'll get so diehard about it.
It blows my mind. Like whenever like I totally get how that culture blew up because I was a metalhead. I was a punk kid. I was a goth kid. I was a part of so many other subgenres of outcasts, right? Growing up.
Yeah.
And it's like, this is just another group of outcasts.
Yeah.
So when like friends and like different outcast groups are like throwing shade at them, I'm like, you understand, like fundamentally, we're all the same people. We're all like, you know, again, that word, just outcasts.
Yeah.
So it's like, why would you throw shade at somebody else that has just found something positive in the darkness that is planet Earth, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And I, like I said, I'm 37. So I grew up as a teenager during the height of, you know, rap and nu metal, you know, at that time period. And you remember that era. I mean,
yeah,
that was like all over the place. And I like to always like make this point. I was like, that was back when Hot Topic was cool.
Sure.
When they were, when Hot Topic was scary and people were actually scared to go in that store. You'd be like at a mall and you kind of think it was funny how people would kind of do the walk around.
Oh yeah.
From Hot Topic. Cause that scary store where all the weird people go in. But, that was the group of people I was hanging out with and stuff. And, you know, during that time period, that's when all rap was blowing up. I mean, like, you know, not just Insane Clown Posse, but then you had, you know, Eminem and D12, and then Dre was really putting out incredible stuff. And so was Snoop Dogg. So, I mean, at the time, nu metal was getting huge and rap was getting probably at the biggest height it ever was. But that was obviously back when people actually bought records and, you know, everything wasn't like, oh, I woke up today and that album just came out. It's on my phone. Let's listen. That was like back in the day when you had to go to the store and wait in line, and that's the only thing I tell people about this day and age is I love technology and I love streaming and I love how everything goes forward, but I kind of miss that era of when we grew up, when an album came out and it was like an event. I don't feel like that's there anymore.
Yeah. I still try to maintain that magic as much as I can. Like, if I know the band that I like is putting out an album and if they have a release date for it, like I'll make a note in my calendar.
Yeah.
If I can, I'll like pre-order a copy of the record and then maybe it'll show up and I'll get to listen to it. I'll try my best not to listen to it before I can like listen to the record. But the fucked up thing that so many bands do now is they'll release a single, then another single, a couple months later, another single. They'll release like 4 or 5 singles. No album announcement. They're just releasing singles.
I think they do that because they're waiting, hoping one of them will catch fire. And then when it does, then they'll run with that. Yeah. Then they'll ride that wave. And then all of a sudden you'll hear, oh, their album's coming out soon.
Yeah, but then when the album's announced, all of those tracks are on the album. So it's like you've already heard half of the fucking album.
Yeah.
And that's kind of a bummer for me. Because it's like, I like that, like, to your point, like back when you might have heard like one song, there could be a video on MTV or something, right? But
back when MTV played music videos.
But for the most part, you know, you would have like maybe like, you know, 45, 50, 60 minutes of new music from an artist that you're really looking forward to.
Yeah, like you had to wait a year whatever for it, and not even that. It was like you'd see like commercials on TV, or you would like magazines would come out and you'd want to go get the magazine and then read the interview, or something come out like where they would really reveal the track list and you'd read the track list and be like, ooh, wow, this song looks like interesting. I wonder what this one's about or what this one's going to sound like. You know, I love streaming and I love how it is now, but it's just like I said, I just feel like today there's no feeling of an album coming out being like an event, and that's how it was back then. And that's also, I think, what made Insane Clown Posse probably as popular as they were, is because they had this whole mythos around them that when they put in a record out, it was an event.
Sure. Yeah.
So, and there were other artists that did that, but I'm saying like when it came to horrorcore has always been viewed as like this renegade subgenre that's like, it's very similar to horror movies. You know, it's like got the cult following. And when you find out it's coming out, you know, it's like you want to be the first one to hear it or the first one to tell people about it or all those things like that.